Hey there, everybody. It's Josh Rayner here, and I have a special guest today. You may know her from some recent films such as The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, or the Fear Street trilogy, or you may know her from How I Met Your Mother. I am here with Charlene Amoia. Charlene, how are you today?
I'm good, Josh. Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was doing a little research on you, coming up with questions and stuff, and I discovered that you're from Buffalo.
Yes.
I am from that area as
Oh,
well. Yeah,
where?
yeah. I was born in Dunkirk. Went to school
Okay.
in Fredonia. I worked out in Orchard Park and in
Oh, wow.
Hamburg and stuff like that for
Yeah.
quite a while. Yeah, so I lived my whole life out in Western New York. So I thought
Oh,
that was
wow.
very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it kind of, I hear a little bit of that Great Lakes accent with you.
yeah,
Mine's probably going to come out too.
yeah. How long did you live out there?
I was born there and I lived there till I have a puppy and he's driving. He
Ooh,
wants to be
hello.
involved. So if I'm scooting around, it's because he can't decide if he wants to be with me or not with me.
Oh,
Um,
that's totally okay.
um, so I was born there, and I left when I was 15 because my father moved to Vegas, and so I kind of moved with him. And yeah, but I was just back a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was about a month and a half ago, and there's this thing that Buffalo does right now called Porch Fest, which is
Yeah,
pretty cool. Do you know about it?
yeah,
Oh, I had never seen anything like it. I'm like, this is great. Like, all towns should do this.
yeah, yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool to be back. I usually go back for Christmas, so it was cool to be back during the summer and get to enjoy. Buffalo's a great, I mean, Western New York is a great place to be in the summertime.
Yeah, yeah. Not so good in the winter, but definitely in the
Yeah,
summer.
yeah, that's all we're kind of known for is our blizzards and bad
That's true.
weather. But it's a beautiful town in the summer, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I said, I was just I just discovered that earlier today, so I was like, I have to ask her about that.
Yeah. Well,
All
good
right,
to meet a
so
fellow Western New Yorker.
yes, absolutely. Let's kind of let the fans know a little bit about you. Obviously, we just learned where you're from, but what drew you into acting as a profession? Is it something that you had always wanted to do? Is it something that you kind of fell into?
No, I fell into it. My father had a girl who was working for him who did some shoe modeling in Vegas. And with shoe modeling, you have to have a sample size. For females, that's a size 6. My size is a 7, but it's narrow, so I fit into a 6. And she was unable to work the show. She was supposed to work for Nine West, so she asked me to take her place, and I did it. It was pretty good money to work this convention, and you got a ton of really cool free shoes. But from that point, that agent signed me and sent me out on an audition. And my very first audition was for a 1-900 commercial. It was terrible. And it was, in fact, I was in college and it was for 1-900, like a phone sex commercial.
Oh,
And
geez.
and I didn't know what I was getting into. I just went there and I looked at the copy and then I did it. And I was just like, And then I booked the job and decided not to take the job. They were like, all right, if you want to do this for a career at all, like maybe you don't want this. And so I didn't take that job, but that audition just gave me a high. It was just a hit it was an experience where I didn't know what it was, but it felt transcendent and it felt like I had to follow it. So from that point, when I finished school, I just moved to LA blindly and got in some acting classes and got a badge, and nothing happened for a little while. And eventually I started moving. I got a really good commercial agent, started doing really well commercially. Eventually I got a good manager and started doing some TV and film stuff. And it kind of grew from there. But it was really, like when I moved to LA, everybody's like, yeah, you'll be back in 6 months or a year, because it wasn't
Yeah.
something that I really pursued. And here
I
I
hear
am.
I hear that a lot. People tend to say, you're going to be back within a year. I feel
Yeah.
like I hear that a lot from people.
Yeah.
So if you hadn't pursued acting, what do you think you'd be doing right now? Did you have any other passions?
I love learning. So
Yeah.
I I feel like I'm always taking some class or another. I do love human psychology, and I think that's why acting stuck for me, because you're studying human behavior and you're studying the whys people behave the way they do. I probably would have thought of something in psychology other than, when I found out that, like, apparently, as far as professions, dentists and like therapists, like psychiatrists, have like the highest suicides rates.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard that. Yeah.
because I don't know, everybody hates a dentist apparently, and if you're listening to people not happy all the time, that may take its toll. But I think something with, I love people. I'm a people person, so some way to be with people and maybe inspire them or help them in some way.
All right, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so you've worked on dozens of high-profile projects over the years. What has it meant to you to be part of some of these just really iconic projects?
It's interesting because while I'm doing them, I don't necessarily know they're going to be iconic.
Yeah.
Like How I Met Your Mother was that. And so it's years later that it's this gratitude of being part of something that people really beloved. And again, I didn't know I would be back for more than one episode initially. But then there's things like American Reunion, which had already had 3 hit American Pie movies. And I knew when I went into that one, that was pretty exciting because I was a fan of the movies and of the characters. And then to somehow be in this universe with them was awesome. I was a huge fan as a young girl of the movie Clueless with Alicia Silverstone.
Yes. Love that movie.
Yeah. So it's such a good classic movie. I'm glad to hear that you loved it too, because it's not just for girls,
I watched that movie so many times when I was younger. Yeah, it was great.
It's a solid movie. So my girlfriends and I watched that a lot. And so at some point I did a pilot, I think it was in 2012 or 13 with Alicia Silverstone. It was called HR, and it was for Lifetime. And it was directed by Darren Star, who had done, the Sex and the Cities, 90210 and stuff. And I thought for sure with that one, I'm like, how could this not go? But anyway, that, because you're asking me what it's like to be, and just because I was such a fan of Clueless, when I was suddenly on set with her and maybe going to be doing a TV show with her, that was a real pinch me moment. Again, how did I get here? I feel very blessed in some of the ways things have fallen into my life.
Nice. All right, so I know a lot of actors have a hard time kind of watching the things that they're in. Is this the case for you? And if not, do you have a favorite project that you've watched yourself perform?
Yeah, it is a thing about watching yourself. I guess you've interviewed a lot of actors because, when you're looking at your face on this big screen, you can't help but notice all the flaws. Or if they freeze frame and you're like, they're like, all right, we need you to dub this line, but they're like, or you have a double shin in it or something. So I think I'm like this with pictures too. Like the first time I see it, I might automatically just see everything that I'm maybe critical of, but then the second time around, it's okay.
All right.
I try to be nice to myself because, we're in this world where everybody's retouching everything, and it's not what we should be doing,
And they got me with this grainy camera over here.
Great over there.
Keeping it real, gotta keep it real.
The more we can individually keep it real, the more I think unconsciously we give others permission to keep it real. And there is this sense of relief underneath it. None of us are perfect. And typically the things you fall in love with on people are the endearing flaws, quote unquote. So
yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about how you are in a whole lot of different big franchises or series, things like that. Are there any that you haven't done yet, that you haven't been a part of, that you'd love the opportunity to dip your toes into?
I would love to do a big comedy, like I've always been a fan of Tom Shadyac comedy films. He's the last decade, he's very often done a lot of other kinds of things, but I love physical comedy. So I would love to be able to be really silly, whatever that is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I love Liar Liar because it's so big and broad, and it makes me cry. I'm laughing so hard. So
that'd be awesome to see you do something like that. Yeah,
thank you.
I would love that.
So that's what I would put out there. As an actor, I pretty much take anything I can get, as long as it's not compromising any of my values, because we love to work. But dream jobs would definitely be something where I get to be goofy all day.
All right. Yeah. Again, I'd love to see that. So
thank you.
So, I mean, you talk about comedy, but on the other side, you've done quite a few horror projects recently over the last few years. Is horror something that you have always been into? Is it something that you just kind of started doing because the jobs kind of came up?
As a kid, I was a huge fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Okay. And I watched all the Exorcist movies too. As an adult, I got more afraid of them. Yeah. They started affecting me more. And so I the first time I watched Conjuring 1, I was afraid to fall asleep in my bed for probably a couple months. I mean, it was just, that's where they take her feet. So I can appreciate them, but I do, I'm a little afraid. That's the short of it. I'm afraid. I have watched all the Conjuring movies. I have watched all the Fear Street movies. Okay. Fear Street's a little different for me because it's, it's more slasher fun. And popcorn eating, like homage to like time periods that we all love. Conjuring gets in my noggin a bit, where it has me thinking.
Yeah. And speaking of The Conjuring, that just recently came out. You played Judy Glatzel, the mother of the young boy David, who was possessed at the beginning of the film. As a film that's based on a real life case, playing a character based on a real person, what sort of prep did you have to do to get ready for this role?
Well, there's a book that was written about that family and during that torturous time, but also I got to speak with the real Debbie Glatzel, who is my daughter, and her husband, who plays the lead in The Conjuring 3. The story's based on.
Yeah.
So I got to spend a couple hours with them on the phone, getting their version of and their memories of how things happened. And that was probably the best prep that an actor can get, is to talk to the family. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about some of the experiences that you had working on the set with some of these actors?
Sure. Well, on The Conjuring, we had a bishop that came and blessed the house, him and 3 nuns. So, and did a blessing on us as well, and gave us some holy water. And on set, working with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, and Paul Wilson, who's Patrick's brother, played my husband. Surprisingly, like, it was very light and jovial. Nice. And the girl who played my daughter, Sarah Catherine Hook, became a very, very good friend of mine. So there was a lot of laughing on set in between takes.
I would love to see outtakes for a movie like this. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, like there was one scene where I remember Michael Schaaf's, our director, was like, it was, in the midst of like the possession, and there was a scene that didn't make the movie where my son stabs my husband in the leg, and then I'm wrapping the wound, and it was just a lot of chaos. But the director's like, okay, everybody needs to do jumping jacks. Like, let's get this energy, so like, we're just getting a lot of breath and stuff. So, there it's different than maybe how, when you see the final thing put together and it's just, you see this kid and he's doing basic crazy acrobats and stuff, and it's terrifying to watch. But the making of is often quite the opposite. Like in romantic scenes too, they're hot and heavy, but they're so technical sometimes. There's no chance of it actually being hot and heavy for real.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that a lot of times the romantic scenes are super awkward.
Yeah. It's like, we need your head this way right now.
Yeah.
And, so.
The complete opposite of romance.
Yes.
Yeah. So I know that Vera Farmiga has said that she experienced some strange phenomena in the previous film. Did anything like that happen for you or anyone else that you know of on this one?
I did have the room that I was in the lights would flicker a lot when I was reading the script. That happened a couple times. I had an Uber driver drive me to a graveyard on the way to set accidentally. He didn't know, and he was like, "I don't know why maps took me here." And yeah.
That's definitely creepy.
yeah. And also, there was in the middle of the night one night, a pounding on the door. There was no person there.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So, yeah, could be supernatural stuff. How do you prove any of this? I don't know. I was a little bit more spooked with the graveyard thing. Made me laugh, and the lights flickering. It was like, is this really related? Yeah. But the pounding thing, it got to me a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, absolutely. That would freak me out. Also, you were in Fear Street. It just recently came out. I actually finished watching it today. I watched the third part today. I loved it. Were you familiar with the Fear Street books before taking the role?
No, I didn't read the R.L. Stine books in the 90s when they were hot. I was reading kind of what was my parents were reading, and there was a lot of Stephen King, so I read some of that. But I've become pretty familiar with him between these movies and this TV show I just shot called Just Beyond.
Yeah.
So that's for a younger teen. It's thriller for younger teens. So, but yeah, I hadn't read the books. I didn't know a lot about him before these movies.
And as you have played in these two parts that you're in, you played two different characters in between parts 1 and part 3. I was wondering what it was like kind of jumping into this different time period, because they're significantly different, 300-year difference here. Did it feel like you were doing a whole new film? What was the kind of feel on set for those?
Yeah, absolutely. The third movie, I was in a bonnet and no makeup and very, very plain clothed, and doing an accent that was sort of British, sort of Irish, some sort of combo. In this awful heat, and talking about having witches hanged, and that was couldn't be further from the woman I was playing in the first one, which was a very materialistic, snobby lady who is into her makeup and her wardrobe and how people perceive her.
Yeah, I mean, just because I rewatched the opening of the first one earlier today, and I was like, you're literally the second person that we are introduced to in this movie. And I remember when I watched it the first time, I was like, oh, it's Wendy the waitress.
Oh, you knew?
Yeah, I recognized you right away. I was like, oh wow, she's in this movie. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, so between these two, did you have a preference between the parts that you played in these two?
I loved the opening scene of 1994. I see what they were doing with Maya Hawke when I was watching her close-ups, and how it was an homage to the Drew Barrymore scene in Scream, and I was thrilled to be part of it. And I was playing a role that people don't normally cast me as. Usually I cast as a nice, benign, innocent quirky girl.
Yeah, definitely different from a lot of the other things.
Yeah.
So like you said, you're doing another R.L. Stine project, the Disney Plus series Just Beyond. I was wondering if there was anything you could tell us about this and how you got involved in it.
Well, I got involved in it by auditioning. My projects usually come in that way. I've only been straight offered a few times. But so it's an 8-episode series, and each episode stands alone with a whole new cast. And yeah, which is really cool. And they've gotten together a really good cast, really good directors, and just pretty cool, thrilling scenarios. I play a very quirky principal who's pulling her hair out because all of the kids in my school are out of their minds, and I'm trying to handle it. And in the meantime, I'm losing my hair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And
that's really losing my hair, but it is like it's just getting crazier and crazier as the episode goes on.
And that's the pilot episode, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll get to see you right away, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Great. All right, so I'm going to kind of move away from the horror area a little bit. And I know that last year you were in the DC film Birds of Prey. Mm-hmm. You played Maria Bertinelli, the mother of Helena Bertinelli, a.k.a. Huntress. Were you a DC Comics fan before taking this role? Did you know anything about any of the characters that you were kind of involved with or anything?
I knew a bit about this character, and once I got the role, I did read a couple comic. I mean, there's several different versions of Helena's story.
Yes.
So you are a fan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I read up on all of them, and just to kind of know what the fans, what kind of backstories the fans would be coming in with. But other than that, not much more. But I was certainly happy to play it. I come from a big Italian family.
Yeah.
And, so this, although I've not experienced a scene like that, I've certainly heard of them. There's some love stories in my family, my great grandpa's time. So it felt like I should be there.
Nice. Yeah. So, as you kind of alluded to, your character does meet a pretty grisly fate. Can you talk a bit about what it was like filming that scene? Because it was pretty intense.
It was an intense scene. In fact, that scene took about 16 hours. We were there all day. It was just it felt as epic as it was. There's a lot of characters, a lot of drama, and a really full backstory for Helena, going into why she becomes who she becomes.
Yeah.
So it was emotional, and at the same time, it was fun. I mean, there was a lot of, even like learning how to take bullets. A lot of stunt people there, and I had to have a very ugly death. So that was fun.
You did a great job, though. Great job.
Thank you.
Now, this wasn't the first time that you'd been in a DC project, as you had appeared in an episode of the CW's The Flash, Season 5, Episode 10, The Flash and the Furious, the previous year. Can you talk about your experience on that show a little bit?
That was, so they shot The Flash in Vancouver. And so I got to go to Vancouver for the week, which was awesome. And my character was in a courthouse recounting some of the stuff that was happening in the episode. So I didn't get to experience all the fun superpower stuff, but just got to say how this evil was affecting the town.
Were there any shenanigans? Because I've heard that on a lot of the CW superhero shows, there's a lot of shenanigans going on off, behind the scenes and whatnot. Did you experience anything like that?
I did not. You must know way more than I do.
Oh, yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, those crews tend to get into a lot a lot of, like I said, shenanigans. It's
Oh, interesting.
I've heard a lot of interesting stories about the
Okay.
sets of those shows. So,
Yeah.
is there a DC property that you'd like to kind of get the chance to tackle? You know, now that you've done, a couple of different ones.
I mean, I love, obviously all the Wonder Woman stuff, and just to play any character, any strong female character
Need,
would
need to
super.
get you as an Amazon in the next Wonder Woman movie. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Yes.
come on now. What actress wouldn't want to do that?
Exactly. Have to hit up Patty Jenkins, see what's going on.
Exactly. You can put a phone call in for me.
I'll do what I can.
Okay.
All right, so The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, Fear Street, and Birds of Prey all come from established properties with built-in fan bases. Was there any added pressure on you while doing these projects and knowing how kind of fervent the fan bases can be?
People ask that question a lot. Thankfully, my mind didn't go there ahead
That's
of time. Good. Yeah, because that's exactly right. There's a fervent following. I mean, I knew with The Conjuring because I had seen the first one, and I was very impressed with. Even though Conjuring, in fact, it scared me a lot. I was very, very impressed with that movie, the story, and just how tight the script was. And I just thought it was one of the best horror movies that I had seen. So going into it, I was just excited to be part of that universe because they do it so well. And the same thing with anything DC, just to, even if it's a small part, to be part of this world that has a lot of people have put a lot of energy creating and has such a following. I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, I mean, we're grateful to have you in all these amazing projects. And one of the ones that I've loved the most is the one that you're probably most famous for, and that is How I Met Your Mother. You played Wendy the waitress on the show for 6 seasons. Your character became one of the few well-known side characters of that show. So I was shocked when I realized you'd only been in 17 episodes out of the 208 total. And I did the calculation. It's 8% of the episodes, which is kind of mind-blowing to me because I feel like Wendy the waitress has become synonymous with the show for me and a lot of other fans. It's like when you outside of those main 5, there's really 3 that come to my mind, and it's Wendy the waitress, Carl the bartender, and Ranjit. And so the fact that you were only in those few episodes, I was shocked. I could have swore you were in way more of that show. So, you definitely left a lasting impression during those times. So can you talk a bit about how this project came about? I mean, I assume, like you said before, you just auditioned for it, and I know you said that it was only supposed to be the one episode. When did you find out that you were going to be coming back, and how was that kind of reaction? What was your reaction to that?
Well, first, thank you for being such a cool fan and saying everything you just said.
Thank you. And you're welcome.
Yeah, I think the 3 of us, me and the guy who played Carl and Reggie, I think we've all done around 20 episodes. So the idea that the fans think that we were an essential part or a cool part is really nice to hear. It was just 1 episode initially, and I didn't find out about the next episode till the week before when they said, hey, we want to put you on hold for this episode. And that's how every episode happened, probably for the 3 of us anyway. There was never a contract. So it was just as they were writing the episodes, if they felt to put one of us in, they did. And all of us got probably a couple cool episodes throughout the extension of the show. And it was a great time. I had auditioned initially for a couple different roles. And so then they offered me the waitress, which I didn't know what I would even be saying until I got the script. But
what roles were the other ones that you auditioned for? I'm curious.
They were, I think, They might have been in the episode before. I think I was initially in the third episode. But they were two girls that went on dates with Ted and had bad experiences.
Okay, yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Because me and my brother just started a How I Met Your Mother podcast, and I think we just recorded episode 8, so we have just watched that episode. So yeah, I know exactly. I know exactly which two you're talking about. That's really funny.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm glad that they gave you this role instead, because obviously those two characters, you never see them again.
Exactly. And that's, they had a lot more lines in those scenes, but I was like, my first episode was one line, but you knew that this was a permanent set, so that there was potential for something more. So obviously, thankfully, I was happy to do it. And then that is what happened. They just kept writing these three characters in here or there. And it was a good time. It was a very nice set to be on. It was a fun set. There's a lot of laughing and really, really nice people.
Was there, you talk about, the people, was there anyone that's in particular that you enjoyed working with the most?
Are you asking me out of the actors?
Yes. I mean, if you have another answer, I totally. You got stories. I'm here.
Yeah. What's the juice? I feel like a really bad parent, like saying, "Well, this is my favorite kid."
I'm sure they're not watching this.
No, I'm sure they're not. But listen. It was a really great collective group. I got to work obviously with Allison Hannigan again on American Reunion, so I felt like I got to know her a little bit better, and I adore her, and I thought I think she's as sweet as can be, and just a nice, fun person. But
that's good to hear.
yeah, she's a great girl, but the same thing for Kobe is a very, very nice person. I didn't get to know her as well. Yeah. And the three guys, they're all fun and making jokes, and it's a good group. It's too hard to say, oh, this one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Playing devil's advocate. I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
So we talked a bit about, how you didn't really know where this character was going to go. But as the series went on, did you kind of feel the fan love grow for the character at all? Or was this something that you kind of realized after your run on it? I
feel like there were a few times where I would get recognized, which would surprise me, because I didn't feel like I was a big part of this. Like you said, it was only 17 episodes. So, but in airports or in malls or in grocery stores, it had happened a few times. And, but yeah, it really happened after the fact. I think after the series was over and being in syndication, and I feel like that's really when it felt like, oh, I was part of something really special, and other people might think that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite moment or episode that you were involved in?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite episodes are the Platinum Rule and Garbage Island, and just because I had a lot more to do. The Platinum Rule especially was fun to have my character experience all the Barneyisms. And it was fun to have more to do. And it was also fun to see how I grew up and got married and got out of the service industry, as far as we know, and had a bunch of kids, Yeah,
with the Platinum, she went through a whole roller coaster of emotions and whatnot throughout that whole episode. It was fantastic, the way you portrayed it.
Thank you. And I think it's something that's very relatable. I think a lot of people have had experiences where you date somebody at work and hopefully it goes great, but the numbers are probably not in your favor.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
I know that from experience.
right? Exactly.
So you mentioned Garbage Island the last time we saw Wendy. It was in that episode, and we learned that she has become angry with Marshall because of his actions,
Yes,
causing her job to get more difficult. Do you think Wendy ever really forgave Marshall? I mean, it did lead to her meeting the love of her life, but
right.
I guess it
Yeah,
depends on how deep she holds a grudge.
that's true. I think, like with all wounds, time really does heal. And in reflection, knowing that this is how her and her husband connected, she might even have a special place in her heart for Marshall.
All right, I like that. I think that's a fantastic answer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Charlene, for talking to me today. It was fantastic. Just kind of getting to know you a little bit and hearing about your time on all these awesome projects. We talked about your upcoming series, Just Beyond, a little bit, but are there any other upcoming projects that you'd like to talk about before we wrap up?
The only other thing that will be out probably after Just Beyond will be a series called Sons of Thunder Redemption. And it's about a motorcycle gang that finds redemption. And I'm a series regular on, get to see a cool arc.
Nice.
My husband, who's part of this motorcycle gang.
Oh, all right, cool. And where can the fans find you on the internet?
Well, on Instagram at Charlene.Amoia and on Facebook and Twitter.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining me. I truly appreciate it. And I hope that you have a lot of success in all your future projects.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for having me. It's been nice talking to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.